G'day, I'm Scotty Tucker, and in this series of videos I'm trying to help you guys get the information that you need, good quality information that you need, and educate you on how to better manage your water body. Because what's the point of having a water body if it looks like crap and there's algae and weed and your fish aren't doing well and all sorts of weird crazy stuff's growing in there. Let's get your water looking clean and healthy so you can enjoy it, swim in it, fish out of it, make your neighbours jealous of it. So that's what we're trying to do in this series. If you want to get more information as we go along, then subscribe, send us an email, sign up for a newsletter, comment, do something to connect with us so that you can jump on board and get on with these videos as they come through. Now today's video is what's the number one thing that you can do for fish in your dam? That is aerate. Get oxygen into the water. Fish, like any other living organism, not any other living organism, but most living organisms, they require oxygen. And the more oxygen you give them, the better they'll grow, the better they'll thrive, the better they'll breed, the better they'll show colour, the better they'll taste when you eat them. So oxygen's very, very important to fishing dams. And it's also very important depending on the species of fish that you've got. So the Aussie natives that we have, your silver perch, golden perch, yellow belly, Murray cod, Tandanus catfish, all these types of species, they're okay to sort of go in dams that may not have, great oxygen levels. They're sort of kind of used to it. But if you're trying to put trout into a system especially, you need to have good oxygen, because trout, their natural environment is fast flowing, highly oxygenated, cold water. Dams like this behind me, that's not that environment. So you need to substitute that by introducing oxygen into the water. And even the natives, natives aren't going to do very well if there's not much oxygen in the water. Yes, they'll survive, but they're not going to be happy. And what's the point of having sad fish? Make your fish happy, happy fish. So yeah, oxygen is just so important. And what aeration does as well, and something that from a fish safety point of view, is if you don't have aeration in a dam, what will happen is that you get this stratification layer. And what that is, it's a thing called a thermocline, where if you jump into a farm dam, and like the one behind me, normally on the top it's quite warm, and then you get about 1 metre down and it's freezing cold. And there's this layer, and that's what's called the thermocline. And that's the same for oxygen as what it is temperature. So below the thermocline, the oxygen levels decrease, and they decrease so much that normally there's no oxygen down the bottom whatsoever. And then up above that layer, you've got warmer water that's more highly oxygenated, because you get the photosynthesis happening with algae and wind and wave action. So you naturally get more oxygen up the top. But what that means for your fish is that they're not able to utilise all the layers of water. So they're not able to utilise the entire volume of the dam, the entire depth of the dam. And that just leaves them pretty angry, because you've got this whole awesome house, but you can only use the top floor. But more importantly, it makes them more susceptible to bird attack. So if the fish can't get away from the birds because they can't dive down to get the oxygen that they need and stay down there for long, then it means that they're just easy sitting ducks for birds to come along. So it gives them a bit of protection as well. Other main issue for aeration when it comes to fish is to prevent fish kills. And fish kills are probably the worst thing that I sort of experience in this job, and it's the thing that always upsets me when people call and they are just absolutely spewing because they've had these fish in the dam for many years. They've bred them up, they're a massive size, regardless of whether they're pets or whether they're catching them for food or whatever the case may be. But you'll always get people that will call up and they'll say, "Oh, I've just had this massive fish kill. I don't know what's happened. There's a neighbour poisoned the water. We sprayed for blackberries. Is that what's killed them? I don't know what's happened. There's heaps of fish. There's hundreds of fish," and it's heartbreaking. But in most cases, what happens is that it's not actually a chemical spray or anything like that, or runoff, or that gets blamed because these sorts of events normally happen after rain. And what happens is that if you get a few cloudy, overcast days in summer, when the water temperature is warmer, because one of the other things with oxygen in water, the colder the water, the more oxygen it holds. So in winter, you naturally have higher levels of oxygen in the dam anyway. But in summer, it's the opposite. So in summer, everything's working against you if you don't have an aerator. If you get the oxygen levels in water are naturally lower, if you get a few overcast days where there's lots of cloud cover, not much sun, not much natural aeration by photosynthesis, if it's still, if there's not much wind and wave action, putting natural aeration in, and then all of a sudden it rains, what happens is that the water coming down from the sky is cooler than the water that it hits in the dam. and cooler water is more dense than warmer water, so it sinks down to the bottom. And what I said before about that thermocline, where you've got all this water down the bottom that's got little or no oxygen, that's normally a larger volume than the water up above. There's normally more water that doesn't have much oxygen or no oxygen. So all this rainwater comes into the bottom of the dam and it turns all the water from the bottom up to the top. It flips it. It's what's called a turnover. And what happens then is that very, very quickly, all that oxygen is just gone out of the water. So your fish will be gasping at the surface. They're up sort of gaping and gasping. You get people that, sticking a firefighting pump for an emergency sort of aeration, and the fish will congregate around that to try and get as much oxygen as what they can. But unfortunately, you lose a lot, if not all of the fish. And that can all be averted if you have an aerator in your dam. Because a good aeration system will get rid of that stratification layer, give you a more uniform temperature profile. When the rain comes, yes, it will still impact the dam, but you've still got oxygen in the dam. You've got areas where the aerator is that the fish can naturally congregate towards if they need to in an emergency situation. So aeration just simply stops fish kills. So if you don't want to do anything else for your fish, you don't need to feed them. You don't, they can get natural food. You don't need to look after them. If you do nothing else for your fish, the number one thing that you should do if you want to look after the little fellas is aerate your water. Give them oxygen, and they'll love you for it. So that's it for today. Hopefully you got some good info out of that. Like I said before, if you want to check in with us and get some help aerating your dam, get something customised to suit your individual needs and budget, or just get general information and get more of these videos and engage with us, click us, subscribe to us, do whatever you want to do, but please get in touch. We'd love to help. Thanks for watching.